RTS is one of those genres where some games age beautifully. Some are aging like milk next to a radiator, and others sit quietly in the corner for years before you realise they're brilliant. So today we're looking at 15 RTS games that are absolutely still worth playing. This isn't a list of just obvious classics, and it's not going to be just modern releases either. We're going to blend current RTS games, older legends, cult favourites, and a few slightly forgotten gems that have something interesting to offer. Welcome back to LT Gaming, a channel run by two gaming obsessed brothers. My name is Tom, and if you enjoy your gaming content done with a bit more meat on the bone, consider subscribing to the channel, and feel free to give the video a like and keep those algorithm gremlins at bay. Alright, let's jump into this one. Tempest Rising is one of the easiest modern RTS games to recommend, particularly if you grew up on Command & Conquer or Red Alert and you like the punchier side of this genre. It is classic base building RTS set in alternative history, with a war for power and resources. It has fast combat, distinct factions, a great campaign, skirmish and multiplayer modes, and a clear love for everything 90s and 2000s. It is definitely unapologetically old school. You build a base, you get your economy moving, you pump out units, you scout a bit, pressure, tech up, and then everything will explode in that wonderfully familiar way. And I gotta say, this one hits the right buttons for me. The sound effects, the music, the pacing, the presentation. It has the feeling of coming back to a genre you loved, but with all the bells, whistles, and modernizations you want in 2026. Now, a pure nostalgia one for me now, Dawn of War Definitive Edition. This was one of those RTS games that made Warhammer 40k feel properly alive, loud, brutal, ridiculous, and absolutely drowning in grimdark goodness. There is still nothing quite like watching those sync kills play out, with your squad smashing into each other while the battlefield turns into absolute pandemonium. And for me, the Necrons were always my favourite. Slow, ancient, absolutely miserable to fight against, and very good at just laying on the pain for your opponent. The Definitive Edition is what makes this one an easy recommend today. You get the campaigns, the factions, the expansions, loads of maps, modern support, and basically a huge box of 40k RTS goodness. KKND, or Crush, Kill and Destroy. Now, you might be thinking, Tom, KKND in 2026, it's a cult classic, but have you lost it? It's not for this day and age. But yes, it's gonna become relevant again. This cult classic Mad Max-esque RTS is gonna get modern online PvP support on Steam and GOG, with new updates being worked on alongside longtime series modder Andre Ice Reaper Moran, and the current plan includes modern multiplayer support, resolution improvements for modern systems, extra language support, and free updates for existing owners. For Luke and I, this one has some proper old favourite energy. It's rough, weird, radioactive, and very much from that glorious era of where RTS was absolutely crazy, and I cannot wait to see what they're going to do with it in the future. Now, the Scouring is a game I've been waiting for without fully realising I was waiting for it. I grew up with Warcraft 2, is one of my formative RTS games, I think. And with the IP drifting away from the classic RTS formula, I kind of drifted away from it too. So seeing a game come along that openly scratches that old school fantasy RTS itch is really exciting to me. You got base building, resource management, humans versus orcs, classic RTS modes, hero mode, multiplayer, co-op, and Steam Workshop support. I love it. The foundation is already promising. It is an early access game, but it all feels familiar in the best possible way. Very chunky, fantasy RTS comfort food. And if the devs keep building upon it, the Scouring could become something very special indeed. There is something very satisfying about booting up Age of Empires 4. At its heart, it still captures the feeling that Luke and I had as kids on the living room, lining up your toy soldiers, putting your cavalry over here, and then smashing everything together in a little disaster. Only now, it's a sprawling medieval battlefield. You've got economic management, historical factions, siege weapons, naval fights, campaigns, you name it. And all of the things that makes the Age of Empires game tick. And that ultimately is why it still works so well today. It has the familiarity, it's incredibly user-friendly, deeply satisfying. You build, you scout, you age up, you panic when someone comes knocking on your walls. Classic RTS comfort food basically, but with a few more trebuchets thrown in there. Cataclismo is a game where I went in expecting simple tower defense, and I came out thinking, Hang on, why has no one done anything quite like this before? The big thing here is building. It's not just pre-made towers, you have to construct defences brick by brick, shaping walls, ramps, platforms, choke points, and these little murder balconies for your nightly wave of horrors. It is part RTS, part base builder, part tower defense, and part I'm now apparently an architect. The full 1.0 version is launched last year, and it's just going from strength to strength. I do wish some of the campaign missions hit a bit harder, but ultimately I think it's a beautiful game, the art style is beautiful, and it has this Spanish flavour that gives it a very distinct soul. Godsworn is one of these indie RTS games I really hope more people can discover. It's a proper little gem for me, a classic inspired hero RTS set during the Baltic Crusades, where history and mythology get smashed together in this very satisfying way. Of course you build your bases, you gather worshippers, you command armies, but then you choose divine heroes with their own units, buildings and abilities, so quite a bit of customization. And I really love the story behind it as well. It's a small indie team making a full RTS with crowdfunding and community support, which is no small thing in this genre. Now it is still in early access, but I gotta say the foundation is very promising with campaign, skirmish, co-op, PvP, and a very strong mythological identity already in place, definitely one to watch. 0K is one of those games from the Total Annihilation lineage, and honestly I think it's criminal that it's not more popular. It's free, open source, and is being continuously updated. Now the game underneath is absurdly feature rich. It has physical projectiles, terrain deformation, smart unit AI, huge battles, loads of maps, a massive campaign, co-op, loads and loads of stuff to unpack here. Now, it's not just big for the sake of being big either, there's a lot of cleverness baked into how it plays. Units behave sensibly, the interface gives you loads of control, and battles can also turn into these sprawling tactical puzzles. So yeah, it's not maybe the prettiest RTS in the world now, but mechanically 0K is properly stacked. Stronghold Crusader is one of those classics that absolutely earns the word beloved. This isn't just an RTS where you build an army. You have to build a castle, run the economy, feed your people, and then tax them just enough so they don't end up despising you. And then you have to watch some lunatic arrive with siege engines to try and ruin your lovely little desert kingdom. And I gotta say, I think the definitive edition brings this forward to the modern era very well. Upgraded visuals, remastered music, new recordings from original actors, new units, fresh AI lords, just a lot to unpack. And the appeal for me is it still has that brilliant Stronghold mix of city builder, castle sim and real-time siege warfare. A proper classic, and it's very easy to recommend with the new edition today. General's 0 Hour is still one of my favourites from the whole Command & Conquer series. It's fast, aggressive, wonderfully explosive, and it has brilliant faction flavour, where every side can feel slightly unfair in its own way. The USA has high-tech toys, China brings heavy war machines, and the GLA can turn the entire map into utter pandemonium. The mad thing is, this isn't just nostalgia. You can jump in today and find games. This one often sits between the 1500 and 2000 player mark, which honestly is a bit mental. It's very impressive for an RTS of this age. I think it's one of those games where the pacing still works though. The armies are very recognisable and readable, and when the chaos kicks off, all of those old familiar patterns of tech up, counter, panic, rebuild, and then wonder where my base is gone feelings come back. Age of Empires 2 is one of these games that's never really left my life. I've been at it since the late 90s when I got it for Christmas, and it feels like every few years I dive back into it and have an obsessive few months of completing campaigns or playing online. And this is what makes the definitive edition so impressive. It hasn't just preserved the classic, it's given it a whole new life. You have updated visuals, modern multiplayer, crossplay, co-op, mods, 42 civilizations, and just a ridiculous amount of campaign missions to dive into. The competitive ladder is quite intimidating, so if you don't fancy an anxiety attack about your APM, there is a mountain of single player content to work through, and that's mostly where I play it these days. It's still sharp, it's got that same familiar Age of Empires vibe, endlessly replayable, and probably one of the greatest RTS games ever made, if not the best. Beyond All Reason is another one of those classic Total Annihilation and Supreme Commander lineage inspired games. And honestly, it could be the best free RTS out there right now. This game is built for massive scale strategy where the whole map becomes part of the war machine. You have to manage your economy, production, artillery, air power, radar, terrain, and then your armies grow into the thousands of units. And the mad thing is it's absolutely free. Now I've got to admit I find the multiplayer scene quite intimidating. It's not the easiest RTS to learn on the fly. But if you have loved Total Annihilation or Supreme Commander, just anything with big massive battles, this is an absolutely essential game to try out. The other day I jumped into a 16 versus 16 and just let my teammates take all the brunt of the fighting and then came in with my nukes to try and save the day. It was absolute pandemonium. Next is Age of Mythology Retold, and this one's quite personal for me. Back in the golden age of RTS games, Age of Empires was obviously the big household name, but this game had a brilliant identity of its own. It took the familiar Ensemble Studios RTS foundation, then threw in gods, monsters, myth units, divine powers, and a pretty epic campaign too. I spent a lot of hours with that campaign, so when Retold version arrived I promptly went back in, purely for research of course, and it promptly ate up hours of my time once again. Now important to note, it doesn't just rely on old memories, it brings the classic back but with modern visuals, updated audio, good multiplayer, co-op, and of course campaign content that still holds up beautifully today. The caveat is it does have the older RTS structure underneath, so don't expect it to feel like a completely new game. R.U.S.E is a proper lost gem, and wonderfully it's back with us. This is a World War II RTS built around deception, bluffing, hiding information, which already makes it feel quite different from everything else on this list. You don't just ask, can I buy enough tanks? You ask, can I convince the enemy those tanks are somewhere else entirely? You hide units, disguise your plans, create fake attacks, conceal your base, and use ruses to completely mess with your opponent's read of the battlefield. Nations have their own strengths, weaknesses, and special units, and there is a lot going on here beyond just pushing armor across the map. And the big news is R.U.S.E has returned to Steam after being delisted for years. I have no idea what happened, but it's back with us, I couldn't be happier, and it seems like it might be due some updates from Eugene. Supreme Commander Forged Alliance is still one of the absolute kings of large-scale RTS. You are managing land, sea, air, economy, radar, shields, artillery, nukes, experimental super units, and front lines that can stretch across these absolutely ginormous maps. You can have a 15-minute skirmish or a 3-hour slog where you're basically committing industrial war crimes. And the amazing thing is it still holds up. Now a huge part of that is the Forged Alliance Forever or FAF mod that has kept the game alive with multiplayer matchmaking, co-op campaign support, new maps, mods, balance updates, just a whole community around it. There is Supreme Commander 2, but honestly I always come back to Forged Alliance. It's easy to pick up, hard to master, very reasonable and cheap, so an essential pickup for an RTS fan. So there we have it, RTS fans. This list isn't coming at you in one neat tidy little box. It's coming through remasters, community projects, spiritual successors, weird little indie experiments, the mod scene, and then just old classics that stubbornly refuse to die. Age of Empires 2 is an absolute monument. Supreme Commander and Beyond All Reason carrying that huge scale war machine vibe forward. Tempest Rising with the CNC energy. Then you got new entries like the Scouring, Godsworn and Cataclismo, proving there is room for new ideas. So if anyone tells you RTS is dead, point them at this list and politely ask them to shut the hell up. As always, let us know what I missed in the comments. I guarantee you I could have made this list about 50 games, but like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want more strategy coverage from me and Luke, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye now.